This volume is intended to further elucidate my theories of electrical creation. I covered some points lightly touched upon in my previous books. Also to bring forward to date the most recent scientific facts and discoveries tending to show that the universe is a vast electric machine or organism. This is the electrical age of the world of magnetic marvels and electrical wonder. The people of this generation have witnessed the most astounding development of electrical machinery, appliances, and utilities. In every department of effort, human genius has called forth this invisible, mysterious magician, electricity, to work the miracles of omnipotence. And so rapid and marvelous have been the discovery that the human mind stands paralyzed with wonder and amazement and asks, what next? In discovering electricity, man has discovered the working force of deity, the right hand of omnipotence, the word of creative power, and uses it in all fields of human effort, except medicine, which is going to change, with electric cables, electric motors, telephones, phonographs, telescopes, electro-telescopes, wireless telegraphy, and mental telepathy. The old heavens and the old earth have passed away, and behold, all things are new. The new heavens and new earth as I see it, through scientific facts and analogies, is a perfect electrical machine, a vast electromagnetic organism of marvelous power and perfection. This stupendous mass of matter and force we call the universe is a complete whole, a perfect unity, creating its own light, heat, and life, and bound together by invisible electric ties of measureless power, as swift as lightning and as strong as omnipotence. He likes that word. I'm going to have to look it up. Then I took up the study of electricity as a matter of curiosity and mental stimulus for my leisure hours from the law practice and realty investment. I had an indefinite idea that this mysterious force and the laws governing it might help to solve the riddle of the universe. I always thought that. I studied its application to ordinary machinery and then applied it to the universe as a vast machine. And behold, the universe as a mighty electric machine or organism answered every scientific question and solved every puzzle in the material world as far as I could comprehend them. I applied it to suns and planets, man, and all animal and vegetable organisms, and as electric creations and electric generators, they explained 1,000 mysteries. I found man the most perfect electric organism, woven by electric energy from invisible atom, receiving his physical life, growth, and nutrition, and digesting and assembling its food by an electric process, such as Professor Loeb and Dr. Matthews discovered in 1902. Nearly 20 years after, I soon formulated a theory of electrical creation, which has recently been accepted by some of the ablest scientists. My book, The New Cosmogony, in 1898, and Invisible Light in 1900, and The Cities of the Sun in 1901, my attention was called to this subject about 20 years ago, when Professor Henry built the first electric street railway ever built in this country. It was built on East 5th Street in Kansas City, Missouri, the city where I was living, and attracted much attention. It was used for only a short time because the machinery was not sufficiently perfected, and there was too great a waste of power, and the insulation was bad, for it magnetized and stopped the watches in the pockets of the passengers. While pondering over this electric railway and its mysterious force, as I sat in the twilight in the parlor of the old Coates house, a servant came in to light the gas. Instead of using a match, he turned on the gas, took a few gliding steps over to the carpet, and lit the gas by a flash of electricity from his finger, produced by touching his finger against the tip of the gas jet. I was surprised and said, "Have you enough fire in your body to light the gas?" He answered, "Yes, sir." I said, "Can you do that again?" "Yes, sir." And he turned on another jet, took a few gliding steps over the carpet, and touched the tip of the jet with his finger. There was a flash, and the gas was lit. I was amazed, for this was a new electric manifestation to me. He said, "You can do it, sir." "Well, I'll see if I can." And I took a few gliding steps over the carpet. He turned on the gas. I touched the jet with the tip of my finger, and a flash of electric fire, an inch long, lit the gas. This I did many times afterwards, and saw a dozen others do the same thing. In fact, the servants seldom used matches in that parlor. The carpet held such a surplus of electricity, most any person could by now, a few gliding steps, increase the electricity of their body so they could light the gas by a touch. Then I began to think. The electric fire in man's body, in the clouds, in coal and wood, and the telegraph line, in flint, in cold steel, in everything. Electricity must be light, heat, life, and creative force, and will explain the mysteries of nature. In the hot, dry summer of 1901, when The Cities of the Sun was issued, my publisher called me to one side and said his salesman was going out west. He asked if he took offers to sell your book, which says the sun is not hot, to those old Kansas farmers. Won't they mob him, hang him to the first available tree? I admitted it did look serious on account of the extreme heat then afflicting the West, but told him to have his salesman inform them that if they would go up in a balloon a few thousand feet nearer the sun, they would freeze to death, and that they had an arm that would reach 30,000 feet up into the atmosphere. It would freeze to the elbow in less than 30 minutes, the hottest day ever known, as every 20,000 feet upwards from the earth, there is a loss of over 100 degrees of heat. I mention this to show how some of these theories may shock the sensibilities of some unscientific thinkers. All scientists declare that the sun is a burning globe and also the material and electric center of the solar system, but I conceived it to be a living world like our Earth, only more prolific in life and power, and the intellectual and spiritual center of our system of worlds. I believe I present to only reasonable scientific hypotheses ever presented in the history of the human race, which shows and explains the unity, oneness, and perfect organism of the universe. It shows that the universe is self-sustaining, harmonious, and eternal, creating its own cosmic light, heat, and life in the magnetic atmosphere of its suns and planets, and so simple that the law of atoms is the law of suns and worlds, with the able assistance of many scientists, electricians, and specialists who have recently accepted and championed these theories, and the progress already made, they bid fair to soon revolutionize scientific thought. The time will come, and is not far distant, when those who believe the sun is hot or a burning globe of fire will be regarded as the devotees of an antiquated superstition. The enlightened world will look upon them as they do now on those who believe in witches, human slavery, and that the earth is flat, and will pity their ignorance as we do those who worship gods of Olympus. But they weren't so crazy. The gods of Olympus were in their face. That's what most people don't understand. Chapter 1. The universe is a vast electric organism. Electricity, next to deity, its marvelous and varied powers and utilities, create a new epoch in scientific thought and discovery. Its study is replete with new and fascinating ideas and scientific theory. It contains the story of the universe, more sublime than an epic, more wonderful than a romance. It organized the machinery of the world, and holds the secrets of nature and the mysteries of life in its invisible grasp. Electricity is the right hand of deity, the tongue of the spirit, the word of omnipotent power, the protean cosmic force and creative machinery of the universe. At the divine fiat, it seized all atoms and space. It shook the ether into nebula, the nebula into worlds, the worlds into constellations, the constellations into a universe. It shaped the planets and rounded suns and hurled them forth to circle in the course of the singing spheres. It gave form and function to all matter, from the rounded pebble to the stars, from the raindrop to the surging sea, from the chirping cricket to the sporting leviathan, from the helpless infant to the giant man. It is the messenger and executive of creative will to all created things. It is the ambassador of spirit to matter, the autocrat of communication between all faculties of mind and all the functions of physical existence. It is the law of affinity in matter, of selection in atoms, and whispers to the body the intuitions of the spirit, and guides its insensate worlds to do the will of creative omnipotence. Electricity is the wonderful medium and agent by which mind acts upon matter and works the miracle of life and growth. This mightiest servant of God and man, thus genie, greater than Aladdin's lamp, impresses all laws upon nature and makes the universe obedient to the will of deity, as man's body is obedient to the dictates of a man's mind. This inscrutable word of power from the source of all power is beginning to supply the human race with an inexhaustible force that will revolutionize the earth and link all nations together as one family. In a millennium of peace and goodwill, human life seems to throb, pulsate, gleam, and glow in this marvelous current of existence, which causes illumination, transportation, telegraphy, photography, surgery, horticulture, agriculture, metallurgy, and manufacture to step forth as master magicians to work the miracles for the comfort and happiness of mankind. Every new discovery, every step of electrical science conquers time, destroys distance, diffuses knowledge, dissipates ignorance, encourages friendship, and draws men and nations closer and closer by physical ties and affinities. Where once noisy, ponderous mechanism pounded the rocks to release the metals, electric science, with her unseen but resistless currents, instantly separate the ore and the draught. Soot-begrimed engineer seizes the heavy iron. This is an age of dominant mind, the development of a cycle of invisible forces. The past century was the age of matter. It is said Darwin, Tyndall, Haeckel, and Huxley did a work which had to be done, but their work was limited to chemical and biological demonstrations. It was science, but science of the old school. The discoveries since made in the domain of electricity and mental transmission make their discoveries seem trivial in comparison, and why they don't see it, I do not know. Francis Greason says, "The discoveries and inventions of the past 10 years have made child's play of every previously known system of philosophy. The simple but amazing facts disclosed during the past 5 years rendered the dreams, speculations, and guesswork of the past absurd. The little we know in a practical way is more than all the philosophers of the past knew, from Aristotle to Leibniz. I contend that the universe is a vast electric organism, that all light, heat, and vital force is generated by electric energy in the dense magnetic atmosphere of suns and planets, where alone it is needed for animal and vegetable life, and in volcanic pockets or circuits in the outer crust of these bodies caused by electric repulsion, that the universe began in extreme cold, not heat, that the suns are not hot, but are self-luminous, perfected world, and like our Earth, except greater and more prolific in life and power. I also contend it is as reasonable to bury an iron ship in the icebergs of the Arctic seas and expect it to become red hot, as to expect the sun, planets, or any body traveling through space 460 degrees colder than those icebergs to become hot, red hot, or molten. As the astronomers say, the sun is. All light, heat, and vital force and physical life is created by contact of opposite electrical polarity and the magnetic cushion surrounding all suns and planets. The sun furnishes the positive electricity, and the planet or satellite the negative. And from these two spring all the cosmic and material forces of the universe. The electric currents of the sun create inducted magnetic currents on the earth, which evolves all visible substance and life forms. The earth, at its center, is a magnet of crystalline rock and varied metals, placed layer upon layer as a thermopile or voltaic battery. Each constitutes the solid core of the earth magnet, and draws and holds all matter and substance, atoms, and atmosphere close to its magnetic heart, so that nothing can be thrown off of its vast surface. It shoots through space 50 times faster than a bullet from a rifle, and whirls round with a speed of a revolving cylinder of a dynamo. Its swift duplicate motion makes it a working battery, or our dynamo of marvelous power. It draws all things to its magnetic center, as the magnetic core of the steel magnet draws filings of iron and other metals to its magnetic surface, and they cluster there in the same spherical form. This earth magnet drew countless meteors, swarms of nebulic and invisible matter from surrounding space, and grew in size and magnetic power, as a steel magnet may grow by adding other countless magnets with their increasing power and in growing accretions. For my theory is that every atom is a tiny magnet, and every molecule, meteor, and visible form of matter is a combination and aggregation of magnets. Aside from the theory of magnets, this is not far from Lockyer and Proctor's theory of the stellar formations. Norman Lockyer says the stellar constitution may be explained by supposing it to arise from cool meteoric swarms represented by the nebula and the rise of temperature due to contraction toward a center. And he adds, in the stars we have celestial furnaces, the heat of which transcends that of our most powerful electric sparks. In this heat theory, I think he is radically wrong. In the rise of temperature on the sun and earth, I contend is not from contraction, which is both insufficient and too irregular to be considered. But it did arise from the growth in power and size of the earth as a great magnet. As great a dynamo, it begins to throb with electric energy, and by drawing itself power currents from space and from the sun, the central electric heart of its organism, it began to generate heat and light in its own environment, which in time became translucent to the sun's rays. And instead of the sun and earth losing their light and heating power, they are steadily increasing them. It is thus apparent that all light, heat, physical organisms, and vegetable and animal life are evolved and exist only in the magnetic atmosphere of suns and planets. The light we see does not come from the sun or stars. It is generated in our own atmosphere. No man ever saw the sun or stars. They see the rays of light which photograph them in our atmosphere. They are pictures of them at the end of the ray, emanating from them. But some of these rays have been 200 years in reaching us. It takes light over 4 years to reach us from the star nearest our Earth. It is plain we do not see these stars. As to the heat of the sun, there has been a vast difference of opinion among scientists. Newton held it to be 1,699,300 degrees, but Ericsson 2,726,000 degrees hot. Sacchi 2 million to 6 million degrees. Watterson 9 million to 10 million, and Sorey 5,800,000 degrees. But since the discovery of the law of conservation of energy, which is only about 100 years old, the scientists have been hedging and crawfishing with wonderful dexterity, and reducing it until now 18,000 to 20,000 degrees are accepted as possibly correct. As Newton was a great mathematician, and the scientists accept him on other scientific questions, they ought to accept him on the sun's heat, and acknowledge a fact that ought to be apparent to all, that if heat comes to the earth from the sun in a column 93 million miles long and 8,000 miles in diameter through frigid ether 460 degrees colder than ice, the sun must be millions of degrees hot. Then, as nothing in the known universe can exist 1,000,000 or even 20,000 degrees hot, they should admit the sun is not hot. Only electric currents come from the sun, which generate heat and light in our own atmosphere. Well, I'm glad he went back to electricity. I was starting to think this was going to be a magnetic thing. It still could be, but it's interesting to read. It's over 100 years old. Like I said in a previous video, we could have had an electric universe paradigm 100 years ago. Just imagine where our technology would be today. I mean, it's amazing. We went from Model Ts to TR3Bs in 100 years. But we could even be more advanced, much more advanced, had we followed the electric universe paradigm. Then arises another question. All bodies lose their power, then heated to less than 1,000 degrees hot. Professor Fleming, in his book, Magnets and Electric Currents, says, magnetic bodies become, I turned into Nixon, sorry. Magnets and Electric Currents says magnetic bodies become changed into feeble magnetic ones by heating to a certain temperature. Iron, at its critical temperature of 690 degrees to 870 degrees, or a light red heat, loses all its strong magnetic qualities. In the same way, nickel loses them at 300 degrees. Thus, we have the sun at even 1,000 degrees hot, deprived of its magnetic power and unable to control the solar system. Professor T.C. Mendenhall, in a recent article in Harper's Magazine, says, the electrical resistance of pure metals diminishes at a rate which indicates that at absolute zero it would vanish and these metals would become perfect conductors of electricity. Thus, cold increases and heat diminishes, and electric energy of metals in all substances. In my previous book, The Cities of the Sun, I have given over 50 reasons why the sun is not hot. Among them, I may mention, first, because of the extreme cold that prevails in the upper atmosphere of the Earth, through which the sun's rays must pass, but whose temperature they cannot alter. Second, because the sun's rays must travel 93 million miles of space between sun and Earth, which is 460 degrees colder than ice, which would make it impossible for them to retain any degree of heat whatever. If heat comes from the sun, it must come in a column 93 million miles long, 865,000 miles in diameter, converging to 8,000 miles at the Earth's surface. which would destroy the sun or any known body in the universe to furnish such heat. Third, because the perpetual snow upon the mountains, even in the tropics, show the sun's rays bring no heat to the earth, or snow would be melted by the first and greatest volume of heat from the sun. Fourth, because if heat came from the sun, there could be no clouds in our atmosphere, for the heat of the sun would strike them first, and greater heat above the cloud level would prevent their formation and forever banish them from our skies. But boy, when that sun comes out of them clouds, you sure can feel it burn into you. But those are electric currents that are hitting us. It's pretty amazing. Even the wind is an electric current. Fifth, because heat, by the law of its nature, is diffusive and cannot be shot from one sun or planet to another, or forced through space like a Leyden ball or other substance, but is soon dissipated in the cold ether of space. Sixth, the sun is not hot because comets have passed 300,000 miles through the sun's corona without visible change or injury, which would be impossible if the sun is excessively hot. For the comet coming from outer space must be intensely cold, and excessive heat in the sun would explode and destroy it.